All right, great. And then Carly has dropped a link into the chat for you. And so as you look at this agenda, the what column contains our objectives for today's session. So you'll see that we are taking this time now to review the agenda. We're going to be talking about emotional resilience today and how that plays a role in your mentoring. We're going to collaborate with one another to make sure that our presentations are ready, because next you get to facilitate your own mentor cohort sessions, and then we'll discuss any logistics and plan for future sessions. So you'll also notice that there are several hyperlinks on the agenda. You don't need to click on any of those now. They're there for you to easily reference, but Carly will also be dropping them into the chat box, but so you can go back to it. So as you look at this agenda, take a moment now to set an intention for your participation today. Setting an intention is going to help you stay focused on what's most important to you and will help you get the most out of your learning. So often when I participate and have to set my intentions, I say, I want to be like fully present, or I want to commit to learning one new thing that I'm going to take away with me today. So go ahead now and just set that intention for yourself. And if you want to share it in the chat, you're welcome to, but you are not required to do that. All right. I also want to share that we're using this what, why, how agenda, and this comes from Elena Aguilar. And the reason that we've been switching to this what, why, how agenda is to let you as participants know what's coming up. There's no surprises. There aren't any secrets as to what we're doing today. You'll also have a what, why, how agenda when you leave your mentoring cohort session. So that's the purpose for that. And just lets everybody know what's coming up. All right. And with that, our first part of our time together today will be spent on your development. And today's development, we're going to be talking about emotional resilience. So right now, I want you to just jot down, you don't need to put this in the chat, this is just for you, to think about a recent emotional experience that you want to reflect on. So some of you today were saying like, I'm feeling joy, I'm feeling disgust, I'm feeling a little bit of sadness. It can be that situation that you're thinking about right now, or it could be something else. So in a couple of sentences, kind of describe what happened and name the emotion and the degree of intensity you experienced with that emotion. Go ahead, I'll give you a couple minutes to do that now. Hold on to that because we're going to use that in a moment. All right, so I'm sure this chart looks a little bit familiar to you all. You've probably seen it somewhere before. And this relates to a first-year teacher's attitude toward teaching. But it's also relevant for deans who are new to their role as well. What do you notice when you look at this lovely chart here? Go ahead and you can raise your hand and unmute or drop some notices in the chat. So true. Maps out your year and you're not new, right? Yes. 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 Similar phases of a dean. Exactly. The yearly roller coaster. Use this graphic with our teacher mentors and mentees, and it is most times very accurate. Yeah, I think we can relate to it too, right? From the summer. Like, yes, okay, it's a fresh new start. Everything that didn't go well last year is going to be gone. I get to start over, right? Kids think that, teachers think that. And then come, the winter months, then we dip down and then we get ready again to see how we're going to end our year, right? So as we're getting ready to approach these months, I really want you to be prepared when you're supporting our new deans, as well as the teachers that are in your building, right? November and December is the time of year when educators start feeling that dip and feeling down. However, with the correct tools and strategies, you can help to work to curb some of that feeling. And that's why I want to share this information with you today. So this is going to be good for you, but also good for the people that you coach in your building, as well as your new dean mentees. So what educators need really is emotional resilience. And emotional resilience is the ability to be aware of, manage, and express one's emotions, as well as the ability to perceive, understand, interpret, and respond to the emotions of others, right? That's emotional intelligence. But emotional resilience is how fast we rebound from adversity and how we handle stress, setbacks, change, and struggle, which some of you mentioned you're going through right now. Ultimately, what we're trying to do with our new deans is to build resilience. And so the first tool that we're going to use to bring our self-awareness to our emotions is this, the Core Emotions resource. So I want you to think about that strong feeling you wrote down during the Do Now. Take a minute to use the Core Emotions resource. You can find it either linked in your agenda or Carly will drop it into the chat box for us. And I want you to see where you fall with these emotions. So you're going to notice how the strong emotions that we tend to recognize easiest, like frustration, anxiousness, or enthusiasm, are actually shades of a bigger core emotion. So is anyone willing to share out what core emotion their big feeling was related to?
So I thought mine was kind of funny. So I listed anger, frustration, and annoyance, and all of them were under anger. So
Yeah, makes sense, right? Yeah, sometimes we feel like they're in different categories, but they're all connected here to anger. Thank you, Tyler. Anyone else?
I had the same as Tyler.
Same. Oh man, my deans, it's happening. All these teachers to get it together, right? Come on. Oh my gosh. Well, the first time that I went through this activity, I was super agitated. I just to give you a little bit of context, was trying to get these Tigers tickets when I was at my sister's house, and I thought I had the correct amount of tickets, but I didn't, because one was a parking ticket, like a parking pass. So I was so agitated, and I was also angry, but it fell into two categories, like anger and then also fear. So I definitely recognize that anger part, but now thinking about it, I guess I was fearful as well, because what if I wasn't able to get the situation to turn out the way that I needed it to turn out to be? How was I going to get all of us into the ballpark? And the system wouldn't give me my extra ticket. Obviously, I'm still a little bitter about it, but I made it, right? I made it through. So we just use this tool to help us to name an emotion. But the next tool that we'll work with will help us take that emotion and change the story that we're telling about it. So this is the second tool that we're going to use to bring self-awareness to our emotions. It's called the cycle of emotion. You can find this graphic also linked in your interactive agenda. As we begin to think deeper about our own emotional resilience, we want to wrap our heads around what an emotion actually is. An emotion is a reaction to an event. Something happens, we process it quickly in our minds, and then we respond to it, right? And then you behave in response to your mind's interpretation and your body's response. So here's an example, going through this cycle. you were a teacher. Let's say the principal called me into her office to tell me that she set up a meeting with one of the parents in my wing after I told her that I wanted to meet with the parents first. Ooh, yeah, like let me meet with the parents and then I'll tell you how it goes. But nope, skip that. So that's the prompting event. Interpretation. This is the why. I interpreted it as she wanted to handle this meeting herself because the last meeting I held didn't go so well. And then she ended up having to handle it anyway. The physical response that I felt my stomach tighten. I felt my heart start racing. My face was turning red. Then we get into the urge to act. I wanted to just run out from the room. So action, what did you actually do? What did you say? Be specific. I just said, okay, but I know that I appeared upset. And then the after effects. I felt sick all day. I felt angry. I felt like she was trying to catch me messing up so she could get rid of me, right? So there is a cycle of an emotion and how we can work through that. So thinking about this cycle of emotion, I want you to click on the get to know an emotion cycle in your interactive agenda. And as you're looking at that, and Carly, I think just dropped it in the chat as well. As you're getting to know your emotion cycle, I want you to think about where in your cycle do you think that you could most easily make a change to steer your experience in a different direction? What part of this would be the easiest for you to do? So thinking about the experience that you had recently that you jotted down in your do now, where do you think that you could make a change? Like which of these steps would be easiest for you to do? You can go ahead and use the chat box or unmute to share your thoughts. Go ahead, Tiffany, and then we'll go over to.
I don't know if it's necessarily easy, but I think it's something that I could work on, is that almost that interpretation part. Like when an event happens or something happens, I tend to go to that like judging side of it, or that the worst case scenario side of it. And then it triggers all the responses where I need to kind of slow down in that moment and not always assume or make my own story first. I need to find out the bigger picture instead of making up the story in my mind, which I think then triggers all the rest of the physical responses.
Right. And like how you react, right? Yeah. If you've ever been sitting in a meeting with somebody and something gets said and they make a face, you can tell. That's just something we naturally do. Like we're telling ourselves a story without knowing the full story or knowing the whole gamut of things. Very good. I saw somebody else had their hand raised.
It was me.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to piggyback off of what she said. So it's interesting. We just finished as an admin team doing a book study on Brene Brown, Dare to Lead. And so the whole end of it, the last part of it talks about everyone has a crappy first draft, right? And it's an interpretation of here's what happened. Everyone creates their own crappy first draft in their head of here's, and you're spinning and spinning and spinning. And so that's my goal this year. And actually, as an admin team, we put it as our goal to help our teachers revise their crappy first drafts and realize interpretation can really change then our next step. It changes how we physically feel. It changes our interaction. But we all need to go through that process to really get to how we feel about something.
Exactly.
So that interpretation phase has been, that's funny. This is lining up perfectly anyways.
Yeah, good. We'll print this out and use it when you have somebody going through that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting that you guys both picked the interpretation. When I did this event, because I'm in the book club for Onward and going through this emotion cycle, I was like, I guess I could work on my physical response, right? Like I have to accept that some things are the way that they are and I can't change that. So I take a deep breath and like approach it from another angle. So that's one of the things that I thought I could potentially work on. All right. And so when you look at this table and telling the story, let's take a moment now to read through the table. And I would like you to think about like, what are your noticings? I think we've probably seen like either ourselves in one of these interpretations or we've seen someone else, right? Because we're natural, like we're human beings. It's going to happen. So what do you notice? You can share in the chat or unmute to share. All about me or all about them. Yeah, Dean X thinks it's all about him or her, right? Yeah. How might these interpretations influence a dean's resilience? So we already said like Dean X is like the me against the world mentality. What about Dean Y? Like what's different about Dean Y?
Their perspective.
Yeah, right? Are they personal for Dean Y? Is it about Dean Y? No, it's not personal, right? It's not. Dean Y is kind of like taking ownership too, like, I wonder what's going on, like reframing their thinking, right? And so I want us to focus a little bit more on the question from our emotion cycle, where we can make the change and tell a different story about what happened. The story we tell about an experience is really powerful. A tough situation with a teacher can go from he doesn't respect me to he doesn't understand what I'm asking and maybe needs help, right? The story we tell about an emotional experience or an event can either boost our resilience or it can undermine it. So with that, interpretation is everything. Things outside of us are going to happen and we can't do anything about that, but where we can intervene immediately after something happens and before we interpret it, right? So we're going to practice a strategy that will help us change the story we're telling ourselves. So we have an activity called Take Apart That Thought. It's going to help you to really rearrange the thoughts that you're having. So Carly has dropped the link in the chat for you there. And I want you to take some time exploring this. This process may be a little bit uncomfortable at first, but it's worth taking the time to do so. So we're going to give you about 5 minutes. And again, pull that up, read through it. And while you're reading, I would like you to think about what is the benefit of interpreting a thought with a different lens. Okay, so we'll give you 5 minutes to go through that now. Welcome back. We're glad you made it. All right, so with that being said, we use these 3 different tools today to talk about like growing our own emotional resilience. We use the Core Emotions resource, Cycle of Emotion, and taking apart that thought, right? And we work through like reframing our thoughts to interpret an event differently. So I'm hoping that going through these activities, whether you use them with the teachers that you're working with or with our new deans or yourself, will help you to continue to build that emotional resilience, especially as we come into the dark and dreary months, right? Unless you live in North Carolina or Louisiana, you have a little bit of sunshine for longer, I'm sure. Right. All right, and so now we're going to move into the collaboration portion of our meeting. So during this time, you are going to prepare for your 2 meetings that you'll be leading with your group. The first one will be on September 28th, and the second one will be on November 2nd. So those are coming up pretty quickly here. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to need to invite all of your new Dean cohort members to your Google Classroom. And so I have a step-by-step that I'm going to share here on the screen. If you need your Google Classroom link. Carly, are you able to just copy paste all those? Drop them in. Let's see. Okay, here they come. All right, and so you're going to, this is another way to do it too, to open up your Google Classroom. Then you can find your, or the Google Classroom tab, and then open up your specific Google Classroom. And then you'll open up the People tab in there. And then you'll open up Students. And then you'll invite your new deans as students to your classroom. And then this is the list of students that you'll need to invite. And then we're going to drop that into the chat as well, so that you can look and see who your people are. And at this time, I want to say thank you, everybody, for your patience, because we've had some new deans joining. And so these groups have been, some of them have been getting a little bit larger than others. So thank you again for your patience as we go through that. If you can give me a thumbs up once you're done, that would be really helpful. And if you need support, raise your hand and I will talk to you on here.
Hey, Emily.
Yes.
I'm trying to add one of mine, and she has 2 different email addresses that are popping in.
Okay, who is it?
Danielle Quinn. Both of them are 107. Well, she's got 3, but she's got 2 107.dquinn, but one has a 1 behind it and one doesn't. But it's her picture on both of them.
Okay, I'm just typing in her name. I think the one without the 1 will be fine.
Okay.
Let me just
I'll go with that one.
Yep. I just looked her up.
Emily, can you look up Destiny Moore for me? She has 4 emails. It might be more than one Destiny Moore.
Okay. Sure can. Let's see if this is her. Okay, so she should be 113.dmore.
Emily, can you look up Rachel Phillips?
Rachel Phillips should be 14, so 14.rphillips.
Cool.
William Murphy.
I think he is, yep, 88.wmurphy.
Thank you.
Okay, Heather, thank you. I see that you're good to go. Okay, Lacey's good to go. Natalie's good to go. Tiffany's got a real thumb up. Thank you, Tiffany. My screen is not showing me everybody's face right now, so sorry if I can't see your real thumb. Okay. All right. Does anybody need more time or need more help? Okay. All right, I'm going to move on to the next part. Okay, so we're going to dive into the presentation. So at this time, open up your Google Drive and you can search your shared with me folder, or if you start it last time so that you can just click on Starred, and then you can find the 23-24 New Dean Mentor folder, or the lovely Carly Schwan has dropped it in the chat for you. Thank you, Carly. Thank you, thank you. All right, so in this folder, you are going to open it up, and then you are going to open up the folder that has your name on it. And inside, you're going to see 2 presentations. So if you look at the screen here, I have Ashley's folder open. There's one for September and one for November. Look now, like through the presentation, just kind of skim through it. What immediate questions are like popping up in your mind right now? If you look at the first slide, that slide is hidden. That's kind of like your facilitator, like just directions and things that you need to know. So the things that are highlighted are the things that you'll need to work on. So like the community check-in, thinking about academic season preparation, just having a conversation about that so that you're prepared, any action steps that you have, and then putting a launch together. So what we're going to do is we're going to put you in a breakout room to like work through your presentation with another person, just to have kind of like at least one or more thought partners as you do that. And then I'll pop in and out of your rooms to see how it's going. So we have about what, like 15 minutes, Carly, for you guys to kind of work on those. Some of the slides have like multiple options of things you can delete. Keep the one that you want, delete the other 2, or you're welcome to put something else in there. All right, so we'll get going with those breakout rooms. And I'll be around to check in on you all. Back, everybody. I heard some really good conversations first. Thank you to Tyler and Group 2. As I shared with Group 1, I didn't have you all as editors. You now are. So thank you so much. It took a lot of clicking, but we made it. So now you should be able to edit those presentations. Also, there was a conversation about like what are people talking about for the reflection piece, since they haven't had a previous meeting. So a suggestion was thrown out to talk about how the beginning of their year has been going. So that's something that you could do there. What other questions, needs, or ideas do you have at this time? Go ahead, Tiffany.
So I know in our like intro emails, you wanted to be CC'd on that. So I've seen you on a couple because I've had a couple people add.
Right.
But I guess moving forward, when we are communicating, whether it's in that group setting or maybe if it's an individual, I usually like to do some individual ones,
Yeah.
just to like how we've done in the past. I do want to be CC'd on all emails. Was it just those intros? Like how do you want?
Yeah, really just the introduction with all that's required. If you feel like there's something that you want me to know or see that's going on, feel free to copy me, or if something has been difficult, for sure. Otherwise, remember that you also have the stream in your Google Classroom where you can message everybody there too, and I'll be able to see that as well. But no, it's not required for me to be copied on everything that you do. Thank you. Good question. Any other questions that I can answer? I guess like while you're presenting, if you're having any difficulty, I'll send, well, I think you all should have access to my phone number. So you can call me or you can email me or whatever if you're having any difficulties while you're going through that process. But really, that's why the only thing that you're really sharing is like a link for them to take their survey at the end. So hopefully you don't have too many like background things that you have to do. It should be pretty simple to just share your presentation. Go ahead, Tyler.
So I have some people who are, I think it's only one is in a different state. Can you let us know when their full lengths are being due? So just if they're different, so we have those dates ahead of us.
Oh no, everybody's stuff is like, well,
Oh,
it's generally due around like the same time. So it's okay because we talk like in general about like due dates and things. So that's
Cool.
okay. Yeah. Because she's in New York, right? You have a New York person. Yeah, a couple of you do. Okay. Yeah. And then you do not need to record your meetings and send them to me. No. I guess if you want to let me know when your presentations are done, and then after your meeting, we can move those into your Google Classroom so that they can go back and like reference those. That would be good as well. And as you're processing through this, because I don't know that anybody like completely finished both of their presentations. So as you're processing through that, if you have other questions, feel free to email me, text me, call, whatever works best for you. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So upcoming events and topics include you'll be leading your next 2 cohort meetings on the 28th of this month and then November 2nd. And then we'll meet again together for mentor development like we did today on the 28th. Also, I was talking to all of you about like professional development. My director, Zach, is working on that so that you all can get professional development credit for when you meet with me. And then the new deans can get professional development credit for when they meet with you. But that's not all been worked out yet. There's an upcoming meeting where they're supposed to figure that out. And so I'll share details with you once I have that. Okay, so that attendance piece on your end is really important, that we're keeping track of who's there for those meetings so they can earn credit. All right, and so our launch. Resilience reminder: understanding emotions is an empowering act and a vehicle for changing long-held patterns and beliefs, creating space to support your teammates in exploring emotions and surfacing them in challenging moments can be a way to promote collective healing and change for the better. So thank you for joining me today. As I said, if you have any additional questions or needs, do not hesitate to reach out to me. And good luck on your first cohort meeting. I hope they all go really well for you. And have a great day, everybody. I appreciate your extra 3 minutes.